Hey, what's going on? It's Stokely from Sauce on Delay. It's raining, so you're gonna hear my wipers making a lot of noise, I guess. Sorry, not breaking from tradition, regarding poor audio quality. But someday we'll do better. But guess what now? So I have a little inspiration today, I guess, so I feel like talking about something. So I was having a meditation because I went to church on Sunday, and the preacher was talking about Christ, and I was like, Christ? Wait a minute, that sounds like crystal to me. And you have a lot of hippies online, they'll say there's a part in your brain that's like a crystal. They call it the pineal gland, right? So I was looking at some other stuff, and I'm thinking that there's upper parts of your brain and there's lower parts of your brain. The parts closer to your limbic system, the limbic brain is the more animal brain. The part closest to your brainstem is associated with all your autonomic nervous system functions like hunger, arousal, or fight or flight, all kind of stuff like that. Now, I think, in my opinion, when my son asked me about brain injury, if a brain injury can cause you to lose your life, well, it depends, And I replied to him, and maybe I wasn't accurate. I said, well, there's people that have frontal lobotomies where they cut out the front of their brain and they're still totally alive. So, the front part of your brain mostly, in my opinion, deals with the personality. And then the brainstem part, that's critical to your survival. You need it. You need those low vibration feelings of fear, hunger, anger, arousal to continue the species and to even survive yourself. But to subdue and keep those animals under control, you need the upper parts of your brain, and you need the frontal part of your brain for the social portion and all of that, because we are social animals. But anyhow, whatever. So I was thinking about Christ, crystal, and I was thinking about how crystalline substances usually is like a pure substance. Now, you're gonna have a crystal that's homogeneous, kinda, but when you heat or cool these things, and let's say you're gonna make a sugar crystal, right? Let's say you make a sugar crystal to make like rock candy, right? You boil some water, you dissolve the sugar in it, you put a string inside, and then when it cools, it forms crystals of just pure sugar, right? Leaving back whatever is left back, all the water's left back, whatever. The water evaporates, you have a crystalline structure that's pure sugar, right? Left on the string. That's how you get your rock candy. So a crystal is basically a homogeneous. Would you say homogeneous? Yeah. It's not really a heterogeneous structure. It's not mixed up with a whole bunch of stuff. It's not a mixture. It's a homogeneous thing. It's a pure thing. It's something occurring basically in its purest form, in a crystalline form. And you gotta extend some grace to me if I'm inaccurate in total chemistry, physics sense. But for the most part, a crystal is a pure thing when you think about it, right? Now, it can have little faults and little fissures and little cracks in it, whatever. But a salt crystal is pure salt, sodium chloride. A sugar crystal is pure sugar, whatever sugar is, CHOs, I don't know what numbers, right? So, anyhow, to keep your thoughts pure, I saw a guy post a video, old pastor guy, saying keep your thoughts pure. Now, listen, you can use your mind to achieve a lot of things, but you're not going to use your low vibration sympathetic nervous system to make decisions. When you do that, you put yourself you're making decisions in an animal way. When you make decisions with your higher brain or the frontal brain, you're making a social decision. A higher brain, you're making a logical decision, in my opinion. Anyhow, moving along. I was trying to, and then I looked at, I was thinking about some guys in the Bible. Some of them made some decisions that were lower brain. Some guys made some decisions that were higher brain. The guys that made the higher decisions, the decisions in the higher brain, I think came out more sustainable. What I was trying to get to is that your spiritual development involves you using your higher brain, not your physical sense. You're not going to really experience imagination or even spiritual, quote unquote, whatever that means, things with your physical being. You're not going to touch, taste, smell, or hear, God talking to you. You have to you're not going to necessarily intellectualize it logically necessarily either. But that's the closest thing you can get to. Your social system is going to program you into religion. You're going to use your logical, well, sometimes you throw out logic because it doesn't really make sense. A lot of this biblical stuff doesn't make sense. So you use your imagination. You use part of your brain that doesn't have any connection to empirical data. Where does all that imagination come from? I don't know. Let's say it's the third eye if you listen to hippies like myself, right? People say your third eye. So people think that the pineal is the third eye. So you're experiencing things that are not real using your third eye. Now, I was asking Google, what does the pineal gland do? Supposedly, the pineal gland regulates melatonin as it pertains to your sleep cycle. So when are you dreaming? When are you seeing imaginary things? During your sleep cycle. What part of your brain is creating all of these imaginary things in your mind? It's not your lower brainstem. It's not your limbic brain. It's not your animal brain. It's not your lizard brain. I don't think so. It's probably the upper brain portion, or something related to the pineal gland. I want to say that. That's what I want to say. I might be wrong, right? So this is what I'm saying. Your spiritual experience is in the pineal gland. It's dealing with the intangibles. It's responsible for your sleep cycle. That's why you're dreaming all this stuff. It's connected to the universe in a different kind of way. You have to develop it and keep it clean. So, okay, now, stick a pin in that. That links back to my discussion before when I was talking about cry 2 and cry 3. Now, human beings have a protein in their eyes called cry 2 and cry 3. When they see the sun, when they experience sunlight, it helps them regulate our sleep cycle. And like I said, pineal gland is related to that. So artificial light is probably going to disturb our pineal gland, and all these artificial lights and the blue lights and all that going to mess with our pineal gland. Now the cry 4 is a protein in the eyes of birds, and they use it to see magnetic fields so that they can migrate. So if cry 4 can allow birds to see magnetic fields, which we can't see, there's potentially a part of our brain that we're not developing, or that's not there, or whatever's going on. Because they have a more lizard brain. Birds are related to lizards, related to dinosaurs, right? They have a component in their brain that allows them to see magnetic fields so that they can navigate north and south. We don't have that. We only have cry 2 and cry 3, from my limited understanding, that allows us to see blue light to determine whether it's time to go to sleep or time not to go to sleep. And that's why people are saying nowadays that these phones are disturbing our sleep. So I would recommend everybody out there put on the night shift feature on your iPhone if you got an iPhone, and if there's a night shift feature on your Android, turn that on also, so it can help you go to sleep. And try to sleep in darkness and try to go to bed early. Open your windows at night so that when the sun comes up, it wakes you up, so you wake up on a proper schedule. Oh my, what car is that? Anyhow, I want to take a picture of this car, but I need to focus. Oh my gosh, is it the new 350Z? 360Z? Which Z is that? Anyhow, so hey, moving along. I was listening to an internet guru, and he was discussing ejaculation. That men should not ejaculate so much because it takes resources away from your brain. So I was making a connection, and I was saying, well, you know, sperm or semen contains glucose in order to feed the sperm cells. So maybe it's taking glucose away from the brain. We already know that the brain uses 25% of the human body's energy, and it loves sugar. So the brain definitely needs its sugar and it needs its glucose. So then I made another stretch, and I recall during my years in college when I would, on a rare occasion that I would get some coitus, there were times when I would ejaculate and I would lose my balance and I would lose my hearing. My hearing would go away temporarily. So doing a little investigation on that. So let's move on for the pineal gland. We're not talking about pineal gland anymore, not necessarily. So moving along, I did some digging on Google, and it said that experience could be due to kidney issues, dehydration, thyroid issues, or an issue with a tumor on the pituitary gland. Now recently I've been experiencing blurred vision, but I've been to the optometrist. I've seen the both of them. And they said that I got 20/20 vision. I got perfect vision. Just about. But at times in the day, my vision gets blurry. So that means I must be running out of something, or my eyes are getting tired, or whatever the case may be, right? So there's a condition where you experience erectile dysfunction and vision problems simultaneously. It could be a multitude of things. And that's when you could have a tumor on the back of your pituitary gland. So according to the documents that I was reading, the front of the pituitary gland just regulates hormones that are made in other parts of the body. The back of the pituitary gland creates hormones. One of these hormones that are important to arousal or important to erection is prolactin. I hope I'm saying the right word. It starts with a P. So go on the assumption that I'm using the right word. Prolactin. Now, prolactin is in men and women. Prolactin is released in women in order to decrease arousal and cause the production of breast milk. Now, if a man is producing too much prolactin, he'll have man boobs. Somebody told me that it looks like I got man boobs myself. Overproduction of prolactin causes erectile dysfunction in men, right? And that's caused by enlarged or inflamed or some kind of issue regarding the rear of the pituitary gland, which they call the master gland. It's part of your endocrine system. It regulates the thyroid, the adrenals, all of that. It regulates the flow of all the stuff coming from all these places, right? So I did some more digging. I said, wait a minute. How does one, I can't take this call because I'm recording right now. So the rear of the pituitary gland, produces the prolactin. It overproduces it, makes you have erectile dysfunction and vision problems. And in women, it causes overproduction of milk. But I'm talking about erections now. So, it also causes sexual dysfunction somewhat in women. A little bit. So now, looked up how do you combat that issue with the pituitary gland. Well, the medications that they typically prescribe are called dopamine agonists. Now, I still don't know what the word agonist really means, but anyhow, the medications are dopamine agonists. And when they prescribe these things to you, you basically got to kind of take them for the rest of your life. It's not like you're really going to get off of it. You're gonna just take these medications, and they're going to hopefully reduce that tumor or reduce the swelling or whatever's going on at the back of the pituitary gland. It's going to reduce that issue, right? It's gonna fix that, right? So I said, okay. It listed a whole bunch of conventional man-made drugs related to reducing the production of prolactin, and in relation to reducing that tumor, if there is such a thing, if there is one. Now, you can also get surgery where they go through your nose and they cut out the tumor. Now, the ways that they diagnose it is usually through MRI or something like that, or a brain scan of some kind. So, but the medications are called dopamine agonists. Now, I said, I'm not into using drugs. So I asked Google, what are the plant-based dopamine agonists? Drum roll, please. Guess what they are? Two of my favorite things to talk about. You know what? One of my two favorite things? No. One of my favorite things. Okay. Two of them. I'm talking about them all the time. When it comes to hormone regulation, when it comes to erectile dysfunction, and me trying to pin these two things on cures. I'm trying to take these two things and I'm trying to say that they treat erectile dysfunction. I've been trying to make the connection. I mean, the traditional Chinese medicine has already made the connection 5,000 years ago. I'm just learning it. And I'm trying to make the connection on a material basis. And this is where we converge and find that the two things that Google resulted, or the Google gave me as dopamine agonists, are ginseng and ginkgo. Ginseng and ginkgo. Those are like two of my favorite things to talk about. Ginseng, number one. Ginkgo, I still haven't figured out yet, because in Western holistic medicine, we're using the leaves. But in Eastern traditional Chinese medicine, they use the seeds. Now, when they, let me just add this in while I'm talking about ginkgo. You shouldn't have more than what? I'm sorry. You shouldn't have more than 10 nuts per day. That's what people have been telling me online. I don't know medically how many grams that equates to. You shouldn't have more than 10 per day. I'm going to go home right now. I'm going to have 10. I had 10 the day before yesterday. I probably boiled up. I roasted a whole bunch of them. And I'm inspired. I was so happy when I read that. I was buzzing, and I was so happy when I read that. I mean, what's to be happy about that? Anyway, not really, nothing really. It made me feel good. Maybe it's the ginkgo that I had 2 days ago that's making me feel all right. When you're feeling all right, I think you can make better choices in life regarding discipline. You can refuse certain things. You can say, you know what, I'm gonna not do that. But first you gotta sacrifice. First it's gonna hurt. First it's gonna hurt. And then you get stronger. You know what I mean? First you gotta pay the price. Then you get stronger. In my opinion, you know? First you gotta make the decision to change. And then once the change starts to happen, you just gotta maintain it. You know? So I'm gonna you know, God is great. Ginkgo is also good for treating Alzheimer's. Ginkgo is also good for treating stroke-related depression. And what's the treatment? You know, depression is I would say, either a starvation or a lack of dopamine or something going on with your dopamine receptors. Maybe. Ginkgo is associated with overall heightened brain function. We exist in our brains, like I'm saying though. You still need your body, you still need your heart, you still need your stomach, you still need your kidneys, you still need your liver. All of that allows the brain machine to work. All of that allows the heart machine to work. And they all need each other. They all need each other. But they can give you an artificial heart for right now. They can't give you an artificial brain. So this kind of talking about artificial things, this kind of inspires me to understand how Neuralink works. How does a Neuralink work, and what part of the brain does it tap into? You know, is it just tapping into the lower brainstem area that's related to basic life functions? Is it tapping into the personality in the frontal lobe? Or is it tapping into the imagination, as I interpret it, near the core, near the pineal gland? Now, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, man. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a nurse. None of that. I don't know these parts of the brain. They got so many parts. They got so many names. Now, I saw a hippie guy that I'm not really a big fan of, but I don't really have an issue with him per se. You know, he's got to do what he's got to do. So a hippie guy, you know, talking about there's a part of the brain that looks like a snail. I think they call it the cochlea or something like that. And he was describing it. I'm going off tangent. He was just talking about sounds. Or it's in your ear. Cochlea, I think, is in your ear. And it's shaped like a snail. And it captures sound. The sound is transmitted to your brain as electrical signals. You know what I mean? Anyhow, the body is also electrical. But guess what? I don't want to talk anymore, because the more I talk, the more I'm going to get all mixed up and off tangent. But ultimately what I wanted to say, because I said a lot and I didn't say anything, is ginseng and ginkgo might help you with your brain if you're dealing with depression or hormone imbalance. And I, while externalizing many of my own issues, just really realized that I have a hormone imbalance from my own self-diagnosis. But self-diagnosis, I would like to say, is a dangerous thing. You can hurt yourself like that. So I wouldn't recommend anybody else self-diagnose. But part of my self-medication is delving into and exploring these topics. Part of my self-medication is just doing research and reading about things. I got a dopamine hit from reading that result from Google. I was in a meeting, I was in a conference room with 50 people. And I wanted to burst out laughing. I wanted to jump up and down when I saw Google say ginkgo and ginseng are dopamine agonists. I wanted to jump up and down. I didn't really want to jump up and down. I wanted to share it with everybody. I wanted to tell everybody, but I didn't know the people that I did end up speaking to at that meeting, or after that meeting, I didn't find an opening with which to interject that into the conversation. So that's what prevented me from saying anything about it, because I would have been really super weird, even more than normal, to even bring that up. But hey, you know, I really appreciate you listening, if you actually listen to all of this. And I thank you. And yeah, that's it.